Hello and welcome to the Hairdresser Strong Show. I'm your host, Robert Hughes, and today I'm talking with Tony and Corey, co-hosts of Your Day Off podcast at Hairdresser. And I've known these guys for a long time, and it's my pleasure to bring them on the show. Tony and Corey, would you introduce yourselves for us?
Hey, Rob. Well, first off, thank you for having us on, and congratulations on the podcast. We're always excited, because we've been doing the podcast for so long now. We're always excited when we get to actually see, our friends and people that we've known for a long time, kind of jump into this world too. Since day one, Tony and I have kind of like.
Oh, so you're Corey.
Yeah, I'm Corey. Oh. Sorry. Corey here. See, that's friendship for you. Always hooking us up. But we've always thought that the podcast space is great for hairdressers because there's just, as long as we're sharing good information for the industry, we're for you and behind you. And certainly you've been doing that. Listen, I'm Corey. I've been in the hair industry for 30 years. And a few years ago, we came up with this idea to do a podcast. And from hair school at Graham Webb over in Arlington to working at PR Partners I was there for 14 years to when I decided to go work at another hair salon. And then, I don't know, it's been about 5 or 6 years that I'm in an independent salon. So, it's interesting. This industry has room for everybody.
Yeah. It's funny because Corey and I have been best friends since high school. Right. And so pretty much we have a very similar story in the industry. We all worked for a big salon chain in the industry around the DC area. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be there in the early years to help develop the educational, especially the hair cutting department for them. Was in that salon for 18 years and been into maybe a little longer than that, 20.
I think you were there 21 years.
Yeah,
right?
21 years, because now I'm in the salon suite for 8 or 9 years. And so it just, it was just a way for us to evolve because, we hit as far as we could go with them and we weren't growing anymore personally. And so it's just been a great industry to grow up in.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nice.
Amazing. I mean, Robbie, sorry, I'm going to totally take over your podcast. I apologize, but it's interesting because we've talked about it before. Like if we didn't find the hair industry, I mean, I'd be in jail or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what else was out there if it wasn't for the industry. It's like this industry absolutely. It did two things. One, I think it kind of saved me in a weird way. It kind of gave me purpose. And two, it allowed me to have a family and to have a quote unquote normal life. Cause I certainly wasn't, when I got into the industry, I wasn't looking at a normal life or I didn't even know what that looked like.
Yeah, 100%. And, anybody who knew us back then and see us now, yeah, they wouldn't recognize who we were.
That's incredible. And actually that's, I think that's something that would speak really dear to a lot of people, in this industry, I can relate for sure. I was kind of trying to figure things out in the beginning, and I was not I could, the whole thing about going to jail. That's I feel like there's plenty of people in this industry who could relate to that. I will say that when I talk to, when I go to schools or I talk to salon owners and stylists, the one, not really a salon owner so much as rising stylists, but trying to figure out, how to go throughout the career and really leverage everything that the industry has to offer. And it's just something that is always constantly on people's mind. And I just love the fact that you all have been through quite a story from going from working for a company. And you even said you both did education, right?
Yeah.
Corey, you did color, and Tony did cutting education. And so you're educators, employees, then you're independents, now you're podcasters. And something else that's, coming up is you're doing a show, like an industry event, which we'll get into later. Is this the first one, second one, third one?
This is our second one. So we've partnered up with the great Presley Poe, and don't ask us how we became friends because I don't really know. She kind of seeked us out and wanted to be our friend. So if you know Presley, you just let that stuff kind of happen.
And if you don't, you got to go get to know her because she is amazing.
Yeah, she is. As far as I'm concerned, the one of the best true artists in the industry. You know, she sees things differently. She educates things differently. She's known for her color, but her hair cutting is just as superb, and her way of explaining it is absolutely brilliant. She's just one of the, if not one of the, she's the best educator in the industry. But so we get to do a cool event with her and a couple other people, but I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. What was the question, Rob?
No, that's all good. So yeah, so like your whole story, I think is really interesting, and like hearing how that happened, and I think that would be super valuable to our listeners and viewers. So like, why don't you tell us a little bit about like your journey through, so we kind of heard a little bit about Tony being an educator, and the moving on process was because you realized it didn't, you were feeling like you couldn't grow anymore, but then you went independent, and then you started a podcast. Or tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, I'll start off with the early years in the salon itself. I was fortunate enough that the owner of, it's Reginald's PR Partners, but when I approached him, he started to take over other salons in the DC area, and I said, we should kind of develop a culture. You know what I mean? If we're going to start growing like this, maybe we should create an educational department. He's like, well, if you feel strong about it, go ahead and do it. And he was one of those owners that if you had an idea, he wouldn't hold you back. He would allow you to go ahead and do it and try it. And if it succeeded, then he would adopt it and put it across the thing. And fortunately enough, he allowed you to kind of follow your passion or what you wanted to do. And so I wanted to cut hair, and so he allowed me just to cut hair, and then he allowed me to kind of create this cutting foundation for the company, and just able to grow in that way. And then I was there for 21 years, so obviously the cutting department, it outgrew who I was and where I wanted to go. And so it, of course it was handed off, and it became, one of the stronger, I guess, salon education departments in the area. And then I just, I got lost for a minute. You know what I mean? I really couldn't find who I was as a stylist anymore. And so I realized that, I just kind of capped myself off. I couldn't grow anymore where I was. And so that's when I decided to move over to an independent stylist. And it just kind of re-sparked everything I loved about hairdressing again. And so I've been here for 8 or 9 years. And if the 8 or 9 years have gone by so fast, because when you kind of fall in love, or when you like what you're doing, how time flies. And this is how this has been going for me for over the last 8 or 9 years. But I was thankful that my buddy decided to, I'm going to come over there too. And then I'll let him get into his little story there, but then he can talk about how we came up with the podcast.
Well, so real quick, so the viewers and listeners who don't know, Corey and Tony used to work together, and actually I worked at the salon for some time with them, and they both worked like in tandem with each other. Like one would cut, one would color, and they would share customers.
Yeah, together as well as one hairdresser.
Yeah. So when they say they've been friends since high school, it's so much more than that. So anyway, all right, go ahead, Corey. So Tony left first and went independent, and then Corey.
Well, I left first. Actually, I left first and I went to another commission-based salon.
Okay.
I went to another commission-based salon. And I was there for about 7 years before I joined Tony.
We interviewed in that salon together, and they gave us the same offer, but it didn't benefit me as much as it benefited him. So I didn't want to leave. So he left with it and separated us first.
Separated the tandem.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll take it. But kind of on that same note, I want to get into a couple points, Rob. Is that I kind of felt the same kind of way. Like I felt like I needed a change. And it was interesting because coming up in the PR partners world, I started off as an assistant there and then became a hairdresser there. And probably because of my own insecurities and stuff, I kind of always saw myself as that assistant trying to make it even 14 years into my career. I was kind of that guy where, like, how do I break through here? So I left when I left PR partners, I went to another hair salon called Bella Bethesda, which, for the record, was probably the best thing that I ever did. Because one, I wasn't the kid. When I got there, I was actually one of the older people. So it forced me or pushed me into like a mentor role, which I really, really, really appreciated and loved. And I found my wings a little bit. The owners, Stacy and Lindsay there, were just absolutely amazing when it came to that. And they also gave me free reign to kind of be that mentor. Also, what that was a Redken Summit salon, and for those that don't know, Summit is like L'Oreal's like business coaching. So it's what Michael Cole started when he started his thing, I don't know, 25 or 30 years ago, about thinking of your business as a business. So it gave me a little bit of insight there. So I was able to kind of use that, and to be a mentor was just incredibly rewarding.
Nice.
So it was a really great move. And then, like I said, I was there for about 7 years, and then I joined Tony over there at the solo suite, and so not solo, but like in an independent suite. And once again, it was re-energizing. Like, okay, well, how do we do this, and how do we manage the books and all that stuff? It's actually interesting because once you go independent, it's so much more work, and like you don't even realize what your salon owner is doing for you now until you have to do it for yourself.
Totally.
And that's not a negative at all. It's just
No.
it's just a different way to see things and appreciate things. I'll tell you what, though, Rob, the one thing that we've seen certainly over the last 2 years in the COVID times, is that a lot of people that have left salons and come into the suites, and then people that have left the suites and actually opened up their own commission-based salons. And I don't have anything to go with that other than it's interesting. It's interesting to watch it happen. We've had it happen a couple times in our suite. It's like people leave and then open up an independent salon. I gather what happens, if I'm using like real like experience, is that people go, I can do this so much better. And then they try it in the salon suite, like they have a fallout with their owners, because that's kind of how a couple of things in our industry I'd like to change, and that's one of them. But we have a fallout with our owner, and we go, we can do better. We go solo for a couple of years, we save some money, and then we go out and we try to do it better, but yeah, so it's just interesting. I don't really have anything again to go with that. It's just interesting.
Yeah. So so you move into the suite, and so you two are in a suite together, or have your independent suites in the same building, or what is the current setup?
Well, we're both, because we're going to move in. Currently, right this second, as of this date, we're separated. But by the time this is released, we'll be sharing a suite with Tony and our dear friend Chelsea as well.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome. And so you went through, this whole process, and you finally got, you all finally made the decision to make the jump on, you went at different times and in different ways, and then you ended up back together. And so at what point in time did the idea for the podcast come up, and like, how did that whole thing happen?
I was a really early adopter to podcasts, right? Like I started listening to podcasts in like 2008, 2009. I mean, like Rogan, or like, Serial, or, whatever was out there. And early on, even before podcasts, though, I was kind of always interested in the format and the audio format, listening to Stern, or if you're in DC, listening to Elliot in the morning and stuff, or, always like it was always interesting to me. So I kind of always had this thing like, man, I would really like to do that in a weird way. Like in my next life, I'd like to be like a radio DJ or whatever. Not that I'm smart enough to do that or anything, but as I started thinking about how we could do it, once podcast came out, now how could we do a podcast that would benefit the industry? I couldn't figure it out, Rob. For 8 years, it's like I couldn't figure out how to talk about angles and how to talk about color and how to talk about that. So it made sense, right? Because our industry, up to that point, that's what our industry was. And I just couldn't figure it out. So I think it was September 2017, I was invited to an influencer event If anyone's listening, we all worked with Philip Wolf at PR Partners, and Philip had left. Before he moved to LA, he was at PR Partners, and certainly Tony and I worked with him. As a matter of fact, Robbie, you took over his station when you got to PR Partners.
Oh yeah,
you took over Philip's station. True story. So he had moved to LA anyways. Long story short, he came back for the first time in 17 years, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, bro, I'm in town. I'd love to see you guys." So as I'm there, all day long, people are handing me their phone saying, "Will you take a picture?" I was Philip's like photographer for the day, and then when I left that night, I go, "That's it. I know what people. I know what we can talk about." And I went to Tony and I said, "Tony, I've got this idea. I want to start a podcast, and I kind of want to be the Jimmy Fallon of the hair industry. Like I want to introduce these influencers, quote unquote influencers, to hairdressers that work behind the chair every day, which is who we want to talk to, and it was interesting when we first started the podcast, there was only a handful. There was like 3 or 4 that you could actually listen to. So we were really early adopters. But when I went to Tony and said I wanted to be the Jimmy Fallon of the hair industry, he goes, time out. He goes, if we're going to do this, we have to bring soul and we have to bring heart to the conversation. And interesting enough, Rob, that the podcast absolutely changed before it even got started. Nice. It totally changed the trajectory of it, and the way that we booked guests, the way that we arranged our conversations, the way we approached everything had to be through that funnel of heart and soul. And I pat ourselves on the back, and I don't know if it's true. And I don't know if it's a chicken or an egg kind of thing, but before our podcast, like I don't ever recall anybody in our industry talking about sobriety. I don't ever remember anybody in our industry talking about mental health. I don't remember anybody in our industry talking about the stuff that really affects the people in the industry. We hear a lot about like how to do a haircut. We hear a lot about how to do a balayage or a hair technique or even business. But I don't ever recall as an industry us having these conversations. And we hear these conversations a lot now. But honestly, before we started the podcast, I don't ever recall hearing that. I'm taking halfway credit. I don't know if it was the industry was ready to hear it, or if we just kind of opened that door. I don't know which one it is, but either way, I'm proud.
Yeah, and Robbie, for us, it's all about the hairdresser, right? I mean, we just like you, hairdresser strong. I mean, anything that we can do to elevate the hairdresser. You know what I mean? The industry in that way. That's because we are hairdressers as well. You know what I mean? We still work 4 days behind the chair every week. So, everything that we do, it's with a hairdresser mentality. And so, because we are. And if we can pass that along, just like when we were educators with PR Partners, you know what I mean? We worked on our days off to help teach and educate. And because together we're better, and so that's been our mentality from the beginning.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, I watch I listen to your podcast, and I would definitely agree with all those statements. I think you guys are doing a great job. So when did this happen? All go down? How long ago was this?
It was actually 4 years ago. It was our first episode was released January 15th of 2018. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
nice. That's awesome. What's funny is when the salon that I'm at, a group of us, were leaving a very unfortunate situation where there was a lot of like dishonesty around and opaqueness around our numbers, and we felt that we tried to get our bosses to listen to us and negotiate with us on how to make this right, and they just refused. So we left, and we moved on January 15th. We just passed 2 years. So that's funny. The date is it's
like the day of liberation, man. It's
for real.
Liberation Day.
That's awesome. All right, so you're doing the show, you're building it up, and if anybody out there wants to start a podcast, do you have any like tips for them or things that they should be thinking about when they're embarking on this journey?
Yeah, reach out to him. Email Corey.
Yeah, don't email me. I mean, honestly, like it's so easy to do. It's not easy to do, but it's easy to do. It's you can. There's so many free applications out there. We use Anchor. We run everything through Anchor. Anchor uploads it to everywhere we need to be. They're also owned by Spotify now, which makes things a little bit easier. But whether you want to start a podcast, whether you want to start education, whether you want to, present better in front of your team, I have a tip, and it's a tip that I definitely used, and Tony used as well before we started the podcast. It's very interesting, Robbie, and I'm sure you experience this as well. Like once the mics turn on, a different part of your brain fires up. It's not the same conversation brain. Once that mic clicks on, and when we did our early podcast, like once the mic turned on, it was kind of difficult to start conversation. So what we did was at the end of every day, I would open up my voice dictation app on my phone, and I would just talk about the day. And as simple as that sounds, what it does is it fires that other side of your brain to make you more comfortable behind the mic or more comfortable talking out loud your thoughts. And it also teaches you kind of how to pause. It teaches you how to think on your feet without fill words. Now I say without fill words, but our podcast is known for the fill words. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying and the uhs and all that. However, it slows.
Why are you making fun of me, dog?
You know what I'm saying.
Know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying, man.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? But what it does is it slows the brain down a little bit. And allows you to do it. So you can use it kind of as a diary. It doesn't even have to be that intimate, but just like, hey, my first client came in and we talked about X. Just open your dictation app on your phone and just talk into it while you're driving home. It doesn't take you any more time. It can be done but it can be done in the privacy of your own car. You only look like a maniac to the people that that's passing you by. But yeah, it was very, very, very helpful for once the mic turns on. And if you don't believe that a different place in your brain turns on, open a mic and start talking into it. You'll see that your brain opens up in a different space. So
yeah, and with social media, I mean, you can inspire, mentor, you can educate, and do it with a mentality of serving others. And if you do it with the mentality of serving others, you're going to impact other people. If you're doing it with the mentality of you're serving yourself, you're going to fall flat. You're going to fall short. So if you do it by giving, people are going to receive that, and you'll notice a difference in that as well.
That's good. That's good.
That's that heart and soul funnel.
Right.
What's that?
That's that heart and soul funnel.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So you got this show, and I think that was some great tips there, and so it's kind of led you into doing an industry event. Would you tell us a little bit about like one, how you decided to do an event, and then two, what it's going to be all about?
It's Hairdresser Presents, and we partnered up with Presley Poe, and it's called Presley Poe and Friends, and we actually want to thank her because after we interviewed her in 2018, she really wanted to support us, and we've talked about how we wanted to do an event, be in the event space to empower, because our show is different than other shows, and it's a little bit more intimate, but it empowers the hairdresser. And so she wanted to be a part of our idea, and she wanted to support us. And so she came to Frederick, Maryland to put on the first one in 2019. And it was successful. She was, she's been amazing through the whole process, but she's really helped us kind of evolve this and grow this and empower other hairdressers as well.
Yeah, we have you go to PresleyPoeandFriends.com. We have information there, but I mean, not only do you get this year, not only do you get Presley, but you're going to get Queen of the South, who in my mind is one of the best on scalp braiders in the country. She's absolutely amazing. She's a darling of a person. You're going to get Trevor Moots. Trevor Moots is also known as Taylor Fade, and he legitimately is one of the best barbers I've ever seen. I mean, Lisa Carella is coming. Lisa Carella is a curly hair specialist. Once again, amazing. She's an amazing curly hair.
Listen to her story on our podcast.
Oh my gosh!
I'm talking about a tearjerker.
Yeah.
It will make you cry.
Yeah, she immigrated here from Cuba, and it was not an easy immigration story. It was not a, she brings the heart and soul, man. She brings it not only to the podcast, but just her story.
You got Mr. Fancy.
Got Mr. Fancy. We'll get there. We have Lisa Carella. She once again, she's one of the best curly hair colorists in the industry, as far as I'm concerned. And then we have Sarai, also known as the Platinum Giraffe, and she's an amazing blonding and business coach. And then, we have our headliners. We have Presley, and then we have Mr. Jacob Kahn, the very sought after Jacob Kahn is coming at to do our event. As I'm sitting here saying this, I'm blown away that these people.
Yeah, that's a pretty big, awesome lineup.
Dude, listen, we are just so blessed. I mean, but Robbie, like our friend Sharon Reiser, who owns the Temple School, she always said, and by the way, that's where the show is going to be. It's going to be at the Temple in Frederick, Maryland. So all those people at the Temple, like, what an intimate affair it's going to be. It's just going to be a few hundred people there, and then you're going to have the ability to take some classes. But Sharon always says that our industry lives on relationships. And I didn't when we started to build this thing, I didn't kind of realize that in the real sense of that, But after we've kind of like done this for a couple of years, she's absolutely right. Like the relationships that we've had and the relationships that we've been able to, I don't know what the word is, but like mature, has been remarkable, and I mean, just look at that lineup, that's a bunch of people that want to work with us, and, not from an ego kind of place, but, why do we deserve this? Well, on some level that, I don't know, on just some level, well, on every level, I'm very proud of that, but, the fact that they want to, and, a lot of these people are like dear friends of ours too,
Nice.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, and they, we like to say that we partner with people that are very like-minded, that want to help the industry and elevate the industry as well. So, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like we attract each other, which is, it's just, even with you, Rob, you know what I mean? Hairdresser Strong, you're impacting young hairdressers, you're impacting hairdressers, and you're elevating the industry in a way. And even when we work together, for some reason we connected, you know what I mean? So Absolutely. It's just these like-minded people just making this industry a whole lot better. I want to thank you for doing what you're doing, brother.
Thanks. Well, thank you guys. So I just to like kind of just before we wrap up, I wanted to just kind of get a little insight into, like, if anybody out there, ever gets to the point where they want to do something like this, I hear this lineup, which that's, pretty impressive. I didn't realize it was going to be, as big. And so what are we talking about here for production? I mean, we were talking like marketing agency, production company, like what, just give us like a little quick, run through of all the parties involved outside of the hairdressers that are going to be there.
Yeah. I mean,
a lot of work.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's more work. It's 100 times more work than you think it is. Now, I got a huge shout out to Miss Katie May, because Katie May is she's forever the unseen hero at Hairdresser. She does a lot of the stuff, and if anything looks organized at all, yeah. She's responsible for it. If it looks unorganized, Tony's responsible for it. So, huge shout out to Katie. Katie is pretty much, this is her baby. We want to do an annual event with her, and this is her baby. And she and she does a lot of that. But yes, we have a marketing team that we're working with this year. They're going to kind of give us a marketing plan, and they will be. By the time this is released, I'm sure you've seen it all. But they're going to be handling our our social media for the event, and putting together the tiles and the strategy and yada yada yada. All that stuff is like so foreign to me, Rob. I have no idea. Hence the reason that we have a team coming in as opposed to us trying to do it or understanding it. So
even a web development team that's going to update and put everything in order on PresleyPoe.com,
PresleyPoeandFriends.com.
Yeah. And so, we have all these different pieces that just makes the puzzle look like seamless.
Yeah. You kind of have to be like you kind of have to be the conductor, right? Like you're just like, you're kind of out of the way a little bit. Tony and I are trying to, put ourselves.
We'll mess it up.
Yeah, we're totally mess it up. Exactly. So you're just kind of conducting like what needs to be done, and
Gotcha.
and carry that timeline. And that's tough when you're talking about like 6 of the top artists in the industry. They're all very, very busy people, and to be able to conduct them and to
logistics got to be pretty insane for all that.
It's crazy. There's a lot of praying at the end of the night that the next day that you're just a little bit further down the road. I think it's important just to keep moving, keep moving the ball down the road. I think that's really important.
That's good. Well, I look forward to being there, and we'll be like getting some shots for everybody, live and in real time and stuff. So just to as we wrap up, I like to ask my guests, which I didn't prepare you for this, so I apologize, to share their most embarrassing moment behind the chair, or as it pertains to the industry. The first thing that comes into mind, maybe you were embarrassed at the time and now you can laugh about it. Do you have anything that pops into your head?
Yeah, for me, you know what I mean? It was embarrassing, and it made me just think, did I make the right decision of choosing this industry in the beginning? So I got when I graduated Graham Webb, and my buddy opened up it's called International Barber, but it was a men and women's kind of salon. But anyway, so I went there, and maybe this is why I cut hair, I don't know, but I went there, and I did this color. She left. And the next day I did another color. And of course, I just graduated school. And as I'm doing her color, she starts to cry. Oh my God. I'm terrified. She starts crying. And then the color that I did yesterday, she comes in at the moment this woman's crying.
Oh no.
She starts to cry. I am in a panic. I'm like, what did I do? What am I doing? Is this... I was terrified. I was like, oh my goodness, I know that I'm not ready to be on the floor. And so I looked around, and at the time it was David's Beautiful People in Bethesda. And my wife's brother, his mother-in-law, was the color director for this company. And so she got me an apprentice job in Bethesda. And then like a year later, PR Partners bought that location out. But that's how I started working for PR Partners. But I was an apprentice for them as well. But that's it. It was a humbling experience. It was frightening. But you know what? Don't allow those situations to say that's what you are, or hold you back. Tackle your fears, move forward. I knew what I needed, and I found the salon that was going to help me get to where I wanted to be. But oh man, it was scary. It was frightening.
That's great. You got one, Corey?
I don't know about embarrassing, but certainly like I can tell you the time I was the most scared behind the chair. But before I get into that, I want to take this opportunity just to give a big shout out to Reg Laws and PR Partners, because, dude, I think from how many hairdressers they've set up, is amazing. I think that they very much fit that role. So PR Partners Bethesda, I was with Tony and I was with Will. If you remember Will, I was with Will, and we had just knocked off for work, and we are heading up to go, have a sandwich, we'll call it, sandwich at the local pub. And as we're locking up the door, this guy comes up and he goes, "Hey, you guys still open?" And I was young and like thirsty, for money. So I was like, I'll do his color. So he wanted his color done, but it's like, Robbie, seriously, it's like 9:30 at night, right? So I unlock the door, I go in, and I'm doing a consultation. I put a cape on him, and when I put the cape on him, dude, he started diddling himself under the cape.
What?
And we're all alone in the salon, and I'm like,
we left. We went up to go get a drink.
Yeah, they went to go get a drink, and I'm there by myself in the salon, and I'm like, oh my God. You know how they talk about you go to the back room and you pray to like the back room gods about, how to get through a color situation. So this is going on, and I excuse myself to the back room, and I'm walking in circles because I'm like, what do I do? Like, how do I confront
my goodness.
So like, how do I kick him out of here without getting beat up or
just by your pretty
whatever?
face, just by your pretty face.
So Robbie, I'm dying, man. My stress level is so high, you can't even imagine, So like, I'm like, dude, you're just going to have to like man up and, kick him out of there. So I walk back to him, and like, he's got the cape on, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know. So listen, I don't know what happened when I was out of the room. But he, as soon as I got back there, he goes, never mind, I don't want to get my hair done. And he got up and left the salon, which was like the most grateful like I've ever been that I didn't have to have this confrontation.
You dropped that soiled cape.
So I gingerly put that in the dirty clothes. So whoever was working the next morning as an assistant, I apologize. But yeah, that was definitely one of the moments that I don't know would live with me forever. But yeah, it was just a scary moment, kind of going through all that.
Oh man, that's pretty funny and disturbing at the same time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh man. Well, thank you all so much for coming on the show. I think your story is super awesome, and I think a lot of people get a lot out of this. It just goes to show that, you don't have to a lot of students are so concerned about where they're going to start off their career. And I try to tell them, you just kind of like got to go out there, do your research. Like, definitely don't just go to any salon and any place. But at the same time, like, careers are long and life happens, and you change your mind, and you pursue what you love. And I love that you guys, really kind of embody that, and that story is super awesome. And I really look forward to your show, and yeah, so thanks.
Hey, Rob, on that, if you're coming out of school and you're looking for a salon, look for the salon that's going to give you the best experience, not necessarily the most money. Because in the long run of your career, you're going to make way more money with the experience that you have than the extra dollar per hour that you can make at a salon. The experience and whatever they have as far as an education to make you the best hairdresser that you can be, that's going to pay off so much more than that extra dollar an hour. And I know we've all been there. Those first couple years are really tough, and that extra hour, that extra dollar an hour can really, really be helpful. And we understand that, but also understand that that's short-term thinking and not long-term success.
That's good. Thanks. I appreciate that, actually. All right. Well, next time I have you on the show, I look forward to hearing some more of your insights into the industry. But until then, I'll check you all later. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Rob, thanks. Seriously.
Yeah, thanks,
and like Tony said earlier, congratulations on the podcast. Congratulations on all your success. And thanks for bringing us on, man.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Peace.